And the top of the table clash lived up to its billing. India versus New Zealand. We just finally saw a close game, I think. We have with us today two guests. We have Imran, friend of the show, live from Bahrain. How are you doing, Imran?
Good, Faris. How are you?
Very well. And we have once again Vivek, straight from India, right after the win. Vivek, how you doing, and how do you feel after the game?
Definitely relieved, for sure. It was tight, but yes, glad to be here. Thanks, Faris, for having me again.
Yeah, great stuff. Before we kick things off, Imran, could you summarize the game in 33 seconds for us?
Sure. So this was meant to be the big one. Both teams going in unbeaten so far, so something had to give. India won the toss, put New Zealand in as expected. I think a couple of big changes for India because of injury to Pandya. They got in Shami instead and strengthened the bowling. New Zealand lost a couple of early wickets, but then a good partnership between Mitchell and Ravindra. I think 150-yard partnership. They really looked at some say, I think, putting out big 300 total, but India came back into it. Really tight bowling by India. Shami took a 5 for, I think, last 5-6 overs. They were very, very tight and kept New Zealand down to 270. India came out all guns blazing, especially Rohit, as we were being accustomed to seeing now. I think they got like 70 odd in the power play, and that really broke the back of the chase. New Zealand did claw back into it with some wickets, and with 5 down, seemed like it could have been tough, but then Kohli did what he does best, almost 100 in another chase. Good support from Jadeja, and they saw them through for the win.
Yeah, so that was 1 minute, 3 seconds, to 30 seconds over, but not bad, Imran. It's covered everything. So I guess, Vivek, coming to you, what's your initial thought? You said relief, but what's your initial thought after the game? What do you think? What's your initial thought? Yeah, let's go with that.
And obviously many positives besides the fact that we just won. I think we've not been able to defeat New Zealand for a long time, as you know, especially in ICC matches. So I think that's great. I think the second thing is that the bench strength also came through, right? You just get Mohammad Shami in for the first match and he, comes with a 5-wicket haul. So that's also a good feeling. The third is it was actually good that the lower order got tested, or the lower middle order, let's put it that way, because when we go back to 2019, the problem was precisely that we actually won every match pretty easily, lost one to England, which was tight, and then that's it. And then the semi-final, we kind of came through at the end, right? Because that lower middle order was not accustomed.
And to be honest, when India won in 2011, that was not the case. The lower order got a fair bit of batting. There were a lot of wins with 5, 6, 7 wickets down.
A lot of close matches. I mean, they lost a couple also in the pool stage and made it. So
South Africa, yes.
It was so overall, then it's a good feeling, right? Like, and for Jadeja to come and that last 50 partnership and everything. Still, overall, India, of course, they lost their way. There were a couple of things, of course, they'll be talked about, but they kept in control of the game for the most part, which was really positive.
Imran, I guess a big conversation is around the 11 they went with, right? So obviously, there's no way you can replace Pandya. There's no one way you can replace Pandya. So they got in Sky at his position, but then they figured that if they had Sky and they'll only have 5 bowlers, Shardul will be one of the 5 bowlers, so they decided to strengthen that and got Shami in, and clearly that worked really well. So I guess, I know in hindsight it's easy, but Imran, why you go first? How do you look at that change? Do you think that was the right way to go?
So I think getting Shami in was definitely the right way to go, given they were playing at Dharamsala. If there was another ground, they might have gone differently. I thought there was a case for actually bringing Ashwin in place of Kuldeep. Now, I know Kuldeep's been bowling really well, but New Zealand is a left-handed, heavy batting lineup, and obviously Ashwin would have given them the additional batting comfort, which they were very close to needing today. So I think the only thing I might have been inclined to do differently is get Ashwin in instead of Kuldeep, but Shami, I think it was definitely the right call on this
Vivek,
round for sure.
Same question for you.
Yeah, same answer as well. I also thought maybe Ashwin would have had a chance today. And you saw how well Santner bowled. And, Ashwin with his experience could have probably had a similar impact. Kuldeep obviously wasn't very effective. He came back a little bit towards the end. But yeah, I guess they just want to also not change the combination too much. I mean, I think that's the main
I think it would take a lot for India to leave Kuldeep out in any game.
Yeah,
Because to be honest, he's essentially their primarily strike spin bowler, right, at the moment. So I feel like it's very unlikely they will leave him out.
Absolutely. And even today, he actually got that critical breakthrough of Glenn Phillips. And then he got followed it up with another. When his last 4-5 overs, I think, went for 4 or 5 and over. So that was commendable. He did fight back as well.
I guess so if you talk about India's New Zealand's batting, the power play kind of went to plan. I mean, by plan, I mean typically what we've seen with India, they've managed to keep things tight, got a couple of wickets. Shami got a wicket as well, and then there was this incredible partnership between Latham between Ravindra and Latham.
Mitchell.
And I think Ravindra and Mitchell. And I think what was really interesting there was how they took on Kuldeep, right? Because no one's even tried to take on Kuldeep in the tournament so far. And and Imran, like, what was your take on this? I think they batted incredibly well, used their feet, etc., and something we haven't seen before against Kuldeep.
I think it was a clear, conscious decision that we're going to go after him. Obviously, it's not a turning track, Dharamsala, plus higher altitude, the ball carries further as well. So they had that in their favor. But I think they came out with a clear plan. We're going to target him, and literally from the get-go, they went after him, and it really paid off.
Yeah. And Vivek, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, obviously. And I think there's one more element. They also knew that India going in with 5 bowlers would not have that option. So if they put him under pressure, and there was no choice, right? He had to keep Kuldeep bowling for a while. So thankfully for India, of course, they pulled it back very well in the last hour. Otherwise, it could have gone completely out of control.
Yeah, I was looking at some stats, and I think they were showing when Mitchell was batting, all his impact points were actually way down the pitch, which is something no one's done against Kuldeep so far. So I think this is, like Imran said, they came in with a clear plan, and they also executed it really well. I guess if you look at how the innings developed, right? So there was 19 for 2 from there. It became, I think, 242 for 4 was a critical point where I think they had a quiet 4 overs, but Phillips and Mitchell looked like they were building a platform to kind of hit out at the end. And that's where Kuldeep got Phillips. And from there, they made 30 runs in the last 6 overs, and they lost all 6 wickets. So I guess it was one of those games where neither side really got away in the middle, right? They were kind of holding on. It looked like it could be a 260 situation or a 325 situation also. And eventually, I'd say India was India the happier side at the interval, Vivek, you would think?
I think for sure. It depends, right? From the start, I think 270, 280 commentators were also saying was probably a par score. So it was 50-50. But definitely after having them 19 for 2, I think India would have got probably a bit disappointed. But then obviously there were also what was it? In 34 overs.
70 odd for 2.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, could obviously gone somewhere else, right? So I'm sure they were the happier side at the end of the day. But to me, honestly, it was a 50-50 match when India started batting. And it was very tight, till the last maybe half an hour or so. So absolutely.
And I think what made it tighter was the fact that had one more wicket gone down, you would have been into Bumrah/Kuldeep, right? So I think given that there's no Shardul or there's no Ashwin today, that probably made it a bit more tricky. And that's probably at the back of the Indian batsman mind as well. Yeah. Okay, so coming towards India's batting then. So again, I think Rohit did what he does best. Clearly, this is Rohit 2.0, who plays very differently from the 29-19 version, right? Where he may get out, but he will score fast and give India that start and try to kill the chase. What did you make of that approach, Vivek?
No, I think it's fantastic because I think India got stuck, in the last 2-3 years where they were doing well in group games and then coming to these knockout stages. And then you'd encounter a team like England, which seemed like they're just playing a completely different game. And only because this whole build your innings and go to the end is not really the way to go. And that's that modern version of the game. And they had the players, but somehow they were not able to do that. And I think after Rohit took over the captaincy, I'm guessing he's taken the mantle on his shoulders to do that. And obviously, it's been working really well. It also helps. He's in really good form, so it's working.
And this is proper leading from the front stuff, right? Because if he wants the team to play a certain way, he's showing them this is how I'm going to play. Even if that means I'm sacrificing my wicket, I'm not getting a big 100 like I was getting maybe in the last World Cup, but this is the platform I want to set for the team. So I think it's fantastic leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's very astute as a captain. I mean, he's won 6 IPLs also, right, with Mumbai Indians.
Yes.
He's not a rookie captain for sure.
6 more than Kohli has, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think that helps a lot, and I think this combination works as well with Kohli as a senior advisor and obviously a batsman, and Rohit as the captain. I think it's working well for the team.
Speaking of Kohli, Imran, you saw Kohli's knock once again. He did what he does, time the chase to perfection, especially in a day like today when the tail was long and there were hints of perhaps India getting under pressure. He just played it out really, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody like him we've seen when it comes to chasing targets. We all know that whether you're chasing a 380 target or a 220 target, you know he's going to 9 10 out of 10 he's going to get the job done.
Yeah.
And today was the same. It was definitely, I thought, a pressure situation when Jadeja came in. One more wicket at that point in time, it would have totally just made it very difficult for India. But he was just calm. He kept picking the runs. I think also it helped India a lot that, again, we talked about Rohit, the start that Rohit got, they were ahead of the run rate.
Yeah.
So even when they lost a few wickets, Kohli could afford to take his time, Jadeja could afford to take his time. There were spell in the middle when they were getting 4 runs, 2, 3 runs and over. But because they were ahead of the run rate, that never put them any pressure. So I think a big factor here again is Rohit coming in and blasting away and putting them ahead of the run rate from the beginning.
Vivek, any thoughts on Kohli's batting?
Yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal, right? And I think what helps is that actually what also helped is everybody else is also in very good form. You know, like Rahul's 27, 28, maybe a little casual with that dismissal, but Jadeja obviously, came through well. But even Gill was playing well. The score kept moving. So there was this period here and then between where Kohli was playing well, but he seemed to be hitting the ball to the fielders all the time. And but then the fact that the other person is also able to score the order. Shreyas Iyer has come out. I mean, to me, that's a big surprise. I mean, I'm very pleasant surprise, but I thought he was kind of in the gray zone before this tournament, but he's been really solid. It's really brought solidity. So all that also helps, like you ignore those 30s and all that, but it has made a lot of difference also.
And also,
Virat Kohli.
My impression of Shirish Iyer is very different because I thought he's much more of a keeps within himself, KL Rahul kind of guy. But in this tournament, he's batting very differently. He's really taking the game on whenever he comes in. So it's a matter of he will do damage as long as he's out there. And it seems like, I don't think he's got that big score as such, but it seems like he is creating impact in the middle.
No, today as well, I think it was a very solid innings. I think it was 30 odd and in good time. And it definitely helps Kohli then stay till the end. I think the game plan is very clear. All of Rohit Sharma will start at the top. The others will also keep playing free-flowing cricket, and they're all in good form, so that helps. Kohli will be the security guy, who's going to take the game to the end. And I think they've obviously got their whole formula worked out, so it's great to watch.
Yeah.
But what's amazing is, I mean, we don't remember like a year ago, for the last 2 years, the Kohli went through this drought, right? Like for 2 years, no 100 and all that. And then there was so much criticism. He lost his captaincy, he lost this, and people didn't even think he would make it for this tournament. And I think everybody in India again forgets all that now. But it's so bizarre. I mean, the guy, you can't imagine the one-day team without him, at least, right?
And, even in that so-called lull, he averaged 40 in ODI. So it's not like he was averaging 15, right? But because obviously lower than his lofty standards and no 100 there, but he was still averaging 40 or so in ODIs in that period.
Oh, he's been phenomenal. And let's see, hopefully he keeps on playing and contributing.
Yeah, I guess... so I guess if we quickly pull up the list of fixtures that's coming up now for both teams, actually. So clearly both teams, India has 5 out of 5, 1 win away from qualification, right? But if you look at India's game now, so they now play England, Sri Lanka, South Africa, Netherlands. Now, Vivek, they need 1 win to make it to the semi, but they have 4 more games. What kind of approach do you see? Do you see them testing their bench a little bit? Do you see them really trying to win all the games? What do you think their mindset would be?
No, I don't think they're going to go with any test the bench approach because it's a World Cup. You got to keep your momentum going. And I think indirectly they got the opportunity to do a little bit of that bench test today. And depending on that Hardik injury and the status, I guess that will determine what they'll do. I don't think they're going to take anything lightly, and they shouldn't. So, because you got to keep the momentum up. What they'll obviously be very clear is from the painful scar of 2019 is to make sure that you're not peaking early, and you got to make sure that on knockout day, you're going to be your best. So, no, I think it's going well to plan. I think next game will be tough. I mean, England obviously is an explosive team. They're off to a bad start. But
But they're still not officially out of it. They still can win. If they win every single game, they go through for sure. So they're still in that.
They're going to
Just
come
about
hard.
territory.
They're going to come very hard at it the next game. If their batting clicks, I mean, again, you're going to see like a 400 score. That's really going to test India if that happens. So, it will be a good game.
I guess from India's point of view, if I was India, I'd probably be keen on batting first a couple of times, right? Because just to kind of test that before a big tournament, right? Because you don't want to go into a semi where you've chased every single game and then you have to set a score. And
maybe they'll give that a shot. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know how they think, but I'm guessing they're going to go with what's best for each match and just try to win. That's it.
So Imran, if we can look at the New Zealand fixtures, right? So they are sitting on 4 wins out of 5.
4 wins.
But you can argue like they need 2 more wins to qualify. And while Australia and Pakistan have not necessarily looked that consistently good, it's not necessarily the easiest fixtures, right? So we expect New Zealand to make it, I guess, but how do you see their next 4 games?
See, they obviously have, I think, 3 tough games, Australia, Pakistan, and South Africa. Sri Lanka, I think they should be able to get past them easily. So, effectively, if they win 1 out of those 3, they're in. 2 out of those 3, almost certain. So, I'm pretty sure they'll make it. I mean, given how topsy-turvy Australia has been, we have been, I think, expect New Zealand to most likely end up second on the table.
I guess the thing is with New Zealand, you expect them to beat the teams below them and then maybe beat a few teams above them. That's how they typically work, right? So they like you said, they have that Sri Lanka game, which you expect them to win. And then between Pakistan and Australia, South Africa, I'm sure they would win at least one. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. But I guess moving on to what's coming up tomorrow now. So there's Pakistan's next game, I think so they were playing on Friday, so they must have traveled yesterday, perhaps had a day off today or had a rest day, and this is their first game in Chennai that's coming up. It's obviously coming off a kind of a interesting loss against Australia, and this is my comment, and both of you weren't on that show, but my comment on the show after the Pakistan loss was we lost the game, but I, in a weird way, felt like I'm more optimistic about Pakistan chances after that game than I was before, given how we played in lots of different areas. So I guess starting right at the top, right? If you look at Afghanistan has never beaten Pakistan in an ODI. Pakistan would obviously go in as favorites. Having said that, they have come super close a couple of times. We've had Naseem Shah hit 6s in the last ball twice. One was in T20s. But Pakistan do go in favor, but given the situation of Pakistan having coming off loss after 2 losses, it is a slightly tricky game. So Imran, how do you see this game tomorrow?
So I think it's a very tricky game, and especially given the ground we're playing at. You're playing in Chennai, and we all know that's the most spin-friendly ground in India. And Afghanistan's got 30 overs of top quality spin. We have not been playing spin too well recently. So I think that, for me, is really going to be a big test for us. If Afghanistan bat first, I'd be very, very, cautious of our chances there, given what happened to England. If we bat first, I think we put up a score. There's probably quite a high chance of defending it, but I'd be wary of chasing against this Afghanistan spin lineup.
Okay, interesting. So I guess Afghanistan has 30 overs of quality spin. They have a Simo or 2 who were good enough to get the first 2 wickets against England. And the ball that got Butler by Naveen Ulaq was incredible. It seems that Afghanistan, their batting is heavily reliant on Zadran, right? So he's the one who gives them those rapid starts. And if you can get him early, they seem unlikely to go get a score higher than 250 perhaps. What's your take on their batting?
Yeah, I think I agree with Imran. I think Afghanistan's best chance is to bat first, somehow get to 250, 260, which would be contingent on a good start. And then, just regular 20-30 type contributions from everybody. And then, yes, put Pakistan under pressure, get a couple of early wickets, then bring those 30 overs of spin. But honestly, if it works out the other way, Afghanistan have to bat first and all that, I think it will be easy for Pakistan, so it should be okay.
If you look at how Pakistan is shaping up, right? So I think Shaheen had his best game of the tournament so far. You can argue that maybe the Babar could use him a bit earlier in the innings, give him another over in the opening spell and so on. But he finally seems to get his mojo back. And I won't say he's at his best, but he's good enough to be very impactful. Then I think Haris Rauf again, came back really well, had a horrid first half, first 5 overs. But it seems like I'm hoping he's got figured out some stuff in life, which is why he's had that better end. Osama Mir dropped that catch, but I kind of liked what I saw with the ball. So Imran, do you have a view on how the team is kind of coming together with the bowling, especially?
Yeah, so I think the bowling, yeah, Shaheen getting wickets and bowling well is a huge tick in the box. We really needed that. Harris, we all know he has a tendency to be expensive at times from time to time, but he's going to take wickets, and high quality pace against Australia is very different from high quality pace against Afghanistan.
Sure.
I was looking at the stat, Australia has the highest average against all teams against 140 plus kilometers. So we all know they're very good at playing pace. Afghanistan is different. They would not have faced a lot of that quality of pace. So I think I would expect Harris to do well again. Osama, he bowled well in patches against Australia, but I think it's too early to call how he goes forward. We need to see a couple of more games from him. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes against Afghanistan.
Yeah. And on the batting front, Vivek, weirdly for a team that's lost 2 out of 2 games, it seems like, except for Babar, everybody seems to be in decent touch, but they're not really getting those big scores, weirdly enough. So Babar even got a 50 against India, sure, but by his standards, it's actually pretty lean run. But it somehow weirdly seems like everyone is in touch. They just need to get those big scores, really.
Yeah, Babar has to play. I mean, he's like a Virat Kohli style player, right? He has to take the team home. So, I mean, I think tomorrow will be a good chance for him because, he won't face that quality of an attack. He'll just get a little bit more time to, and if he can hopefully string that big innings, then it'll also do his confidence more good. And then for subsequent matches, I'm sure that's what he'd be looking for. I would think Pakistan have still a decision to take, right, on Shadab Khan versus Osama. You guys seem to think it's a done deal?
No, actually, it's a good question. So I'm just going to pull up the 11s, which is what I wanted to talk about next, right? The likely 11 of Pakistan. So what I have here is I wanted to talk about bringing Shadab in, but I wasn't sure whether he comes in for Hassan Ali, for Nawaz, or for Osama. So I've got Shadab / Nawaz and versus Shadab / Hassan. My sense is, so among other reasons, I also feel like I would probably want to see Shadab in there because of he's actually really good at taking on the spinners with the bat as well, right? Yeah. And against Afghanistan, he's actually played a couple of decent knocks, and I think in the Asia Cup, etc. So I feel like I would like to see Shadab in there. Whether I want him for Osama, for Hassan Ali, or for Nawaz. Obviously, for Hassan Ali means you're changing the balance entirely. I would probably be keener on bringing him in for Nawaz. Imran, do you have a view on that? How do you see the 11 coming together?
So I think Shadab's got to play. There's no two ways about it. He has to play. He's the only one in your top 7 who can take on spin and be really aggressive against good quality spin. So I think it's a no-brainer. You have to play him. We also saw in the last game, we missed his fielding. Going with 3 spinners against Afghanistan, I know it's Chennai, but I don't think so. So I think Nawaz hasn't been in great form with the bat either, and with the bowling has just been about okay. Yeah, so I would probably go with the Shadab instead of Nawaz, but Shadab definitely got to play.
Yeah, and Vivek, I guess for me also, the thing with Shadab is he's clearly out of form and having a horrific time with the ball, especially. But he has a way higher ceiling than Nawaz. Nawaz at his best is just kind of someone who keeps it tight and maybe takes a wicket or 2. So that's, how do you see this change? Would you bring Shadab in, and who would you bring him for?
I was thinking potentially Osama Umair. I haven't seen much of him prior to this match, so I'm not fully aware. Nawaz is, I don't think he's done too badly as well, to be honest. Right? I don't think he's the problem in Pakistan right now. Hassan Ali, I think he's, again, like I agree with Imran, and they'll keep all their pace bowlers, right? That's what they'll need for tomorrow. So, I don't know. I actually feel that Shadab might replace Osama only.
Interesting. Yeah. I guess it's one of those things, right, where if we had Naseem Shah, there was no way we would be having a chat about Shadab coming in for Naseem Shah, right? It's purely because we don't think Hassan is the same caliber as the other 2, which is why we're even having this conversation, really. So I guess moving on to the toss, Imran, what do you think both sides will be looking to do? And you kind of answered that anyway. But so for what you're saying, you would think both sides would look to bat first and set a score?
So I think definitely win the toss and bat first is Chennai. We've seen it's a turning track You should expect variant in the second innings as well. We've seen in the last few games, captains winning the toss, electing to chase, and ending up costing them. So I think it's a definite win the toss and bat first tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Umair and I had this chat yesterday where Umair had this theory where people look at stats and they say, hey, team chasing generally wins in these grounds, but it's because half the time it's India chasing, who chase incredibly well thanks to Kohli. Yeah. So I think there should be a way of looking at the stats without games not involving India or Kohli, and that might give you a better picture. The other thing is these games are starting slightly earlier than the standard ODI start time in India. And I think it's because to take dew out of it, right? So very often when the dew comes in, the game is into 15, 20 overs in the second innings, and the game is kind of already decided in this World Cup, sadly. But Vivek, what's your take on this, on the toss thing? What do you think both sides would like to do?
Yeah, I agree with Imran. I mean, if you look at Afghanistan's point of view, I mean, they cannot outclass Pakistan over a 50-over game by chasing. I mean, I just see it highly, highly unlikely. So they definitely would want to bat first. And Pakistan, conversely, for the same reason, would also want to bat first, just to make sure that they take out the crowd pressure factor or anything like that.
And I think keep in mind, right, like I said this before, but if Afghanistan had to pick one ground to play, Pakistan would be Chennai. Afghanistan has been sitting here for 6 days. They played New Zealand there, so they're very familiar with the conditions. Pakistan must have only arrived last evening, I guess. So I think Afghanistan they're probably looking at this one as the one time they may be able to finally turn over Pakistan, but let's see.
Pakistan will have to watch out for the spin. I mean, so far in the tournament, they haven't played spin very aggressively. Tomorrow will be a test of that, I'm guessing.
And I think Shadab, I feel, could be very critical for that.
Yeah.
And I'd be like keen on promoting Shadab, or if they don't play Shadab, Nawaz up the order. I think we have to do something differently and don't let their spinners settle in and take them on, regardless of whether we're batting first.
Against Kuldeep, Pakistan refused to use their feet, right? There was no coming down the track and trying to kind of come to the. So I think whether they froze against India or there was just a lack of strategy, generally speaking, I guess we'll see tomorrow. But before we wrap up, there's a small matter of a quiz which we end our shows with. And Vivek, maybe you can answer this one. I mean, feel free to ask Imran, Imran, feel free to chime in. So prior to today, when was the last time India actually beat New Zealand in the ODI World Cup?
I believe this is 2003.
And the answer is 2003.
It's 2000.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I remember that match.
Wait, so what happened in the 2019 league game?
It was washed out, which is why New Zealand qualified and we didn't.
Okay.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, Vivek, the only other time that India has beaten them was in the 87 World Cup, which were both the games were in India. So 2003 is also the only time India has beaten New Zealand in a World Cup outside of India. Clearly that today was also in India, right? So
New Zealand has been a hard opponent for India for a long time. And I think they're quite low profile, right? So it doesn't come in the news. I think only since 2019, we've really started understanding.
True. I guess that high profile game.
Pakistan has a thing against New Zealand, right? Like when you were talking about the fixtures ahead, I mean, with whatever form going in, I think if it's like a must-win game for Pakistan, a league game versus New Zealand, I think all the stats will show that Pakistan's always come through somehow.
So somehow Pakistan's record against New Zealand, South Africa, and even England, it generally is good, even though we lost T20 World Cup final to them last year, but we generally have a pretty good record against these sides in ICC tournaments, regardless of how Pakistan's doing. But great stuff, guys. Thank you for being on. Thank you for coming on, Imran.
Thank you, Faris.
Thank you, Vivek. Pleasure having you again.
Absolutely appreciate it.
And if you like the episode, please like us and subscribe to our channel. And we'll be back tomorrow night after the Afghanistan-Pakistan game. In the meantime, stay tuned to the shiny side.